Bertram was born April 18th, 1928, the seventh child of Frank and Bertha. He grew up south of Colome on the family farm and went to school till the 8th grade. And some say they had to stay home. I don't think my dad had to. I think he wanted to stay home. And I think there was some other ones too. My dad told the story about Aunt Dorothy that they could not get her to go to school when she was a first grader. And my grandpa made her go to school until the 8th grade. So maybe they didn't have to stay home all the time, but they liked to work. My dad helped build the house that I live in now, that Grandpa built. Uncle Guy used to tell me stories that my dad didn't do he did a lot in the wintertime, but he put all the wood floors into that house. And they're oak and another hard wood. And Guy said, you know, we didn't have electricity. And you don't just drive a nail into those hardwood floors. He hand drilled every hole in them hardwood floors, and that's what he did all of one winter.
Wow.
All of us kids also hand sanded those floors.
And I know how hard that is because we sanded one floor in that whole house to redo it, and it took us over a week with power sanders.
Your dad and George Fairbanks were the two mostly that built that house.
So, my dad entered the service on March 12th of 1951. He took training at Fort Lewis, Washington, and was sent to Fort Bliss, Texas, where he was stationed until he received discharge papers on March 12th, 1953. Now, my dad, I always asked questions at the dinner table, you know, when I was young, and my dad never said anything about the blizzard of 1952. And I never put it together until Guy always talked about when him and his dad were in that barn. And I said something about, well, my dad never did say anything about the blizzard in 1952. And I shouldn't even say this because he said, shit, I know, he was down in Texas. So he wasn't even around. My dad met Dorothy Rannick, and after a short courtship, they married in August of 1962. They lived south and west of Colome on the Fritz Kaiser place out here, where they farmed and raised cattle and hogs. And they would also help the Pessicks at the Frontier Bar and right here at the Legion. 5 children were born. Susan was born in 1963, Marilyn in 1965, Janet in 67, Donna in 69, and then they waited about 8 years for the best one in 1976. My mom passed away in May 29th of 1980 of breast cancer. After my grandpa had passed away, we had moved to the Bertram farm south of Colome in '81, where my dad was able to purchase the farm. Then my dad married Marie Smollett in June of 1986, where she joined the family farm until my dad passed away July 12th of 1989. My mom and dad have 15 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. And one other thing that I was telling you, I always ask my dad questions. And one time we were sitting at the kitchen table and we was eating supper, and I don't know what he needed for school or something. They always ask, you know, where were you born? Something, you know, you needed to know the hospital. And so I asked, you know, writing it out, and I was born in the Gregory Hospital, and I asked Dad, well, where were you born? You know, what hospital? And he said, well, he said, it was the old house, but he said, probably about right where you're eating, where I was born. Well, that's Harold.